Hello and welcome to Code Your English. I'm so happy that you're here today. This is the place where we learn English while learning something meaningful for life. My name is Jason, and I'm your host. In every episode, we talk about ideas that can help you grow, improve your mindset, and build confidence in both language and life. So, if you want to practice your English, and also learn how to become a stronger, wiser person, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about a very important idea. An idea that can completely change the way you see your life. The topic is, take 100% responsibility for your outcomes. Maybe this sounds a little bit serious or complicated, but don't worry. In this episode, we'll explore it slowly and simply. We'll understand what it means, why it matters, and how you can start practicing it in your daily life. So, what does this really mean? Taking 100% responsibility? In simple words, it means you decide to take control of your own life. You understand that your actions, your thoughts, and your choices shape your results. Many people don't realize how powerful this is. Sometimes, we blame others for what happens to us. We say things like, "It's not my fault," or "I can't help it." But when we think like this, we lose control. We give our power away. However, when we take full responsibility, something amazing happens. We begin to see that we are the main creators of our lives. We can choose how to react. We can learn from our mistakes. We can change our habits and move toward our goals. This is not always easy, but it's the key to real growth and success. It's what helps us become stronger, more confident, and more independent. In this episode, we'll go step by step. First, we'll understand what taking 100% responsibility really means. Then, we'll talk about why it's so important, how it helps you grow and feel more in control of your life. After that, we'll look at some common excuses people make, and how those excuses stop us from improving. Finally, I'll share some simple, practical steps that you can start using right now to take more responsibility in your own life. By the end of this episode, you'll see that this idea is not just about success or motivation. It's about freedom. It's about understanding that you have the power to shape your life through your actions and your mindset. So, stay with me, keep an open mind, and let's explore together how taking 100% responsibility can help you grow, become stronger, and reach your goals. What does taking 100% responsibility mean? Now let's understand what it really means to take 100% responsibility for your outcomes. This might sound like a big idea, but don't worry. We'll go step by step and make it simple. Taking responsibility means that you accept that your actions, your decisions, and your reactions have results. It means that you understand your life is shaped mostly by what you do, what you say, and how you respond to things around you. In short, it means saying, "I am in charge of my life." But let's look more closely at the word 100%. Why is that important? Because it means all the way, not 50%, not 80%, but completely. You take full responsibility. You don't blame anyone else. You don't say, "It's my boss's fault," or "It's the weather," or "My teacher didn't explain well." You stop giving your power away to other people or to situations. When you take 100% responsibility, you decide that you have the power to make things better. You choose to focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. Let's take some simple examples to understand this better. Imagine you are a student and you fail a test. Many people would say, "The test was too hard," or "The teacher didn't give us enough time." That's what we often do. We look for someone or something to blame. But when you take full responsibility, you see things differently. You say, "Okay, I didn't pass this time. Maybe I didn't study enough. Or maybe I didn't study in the right way. What can I do to prepare better next time?" You stop focusing on the problem and start focusing on the solution. That's how responsible people grow and improve. Here's another everyday example. Let's say you wake up late and miss the bus. What's the first thought that comes to your mind? Maybe you think, "Oh no, the bus came too early," or "Traffic is terrible today." But if you take 100% responsibility, you tell yourself the truth. "I woke up late because I didn't set my alarm properly," or "I went to bed too late last night." Instead of complaining, you think about what you can do differently next time. Maybe you'll go to bed earlier, or set 2 alarms instead of 1. That's how you take charge of your actions instead of letting excuses control you. This idea also applies to relationships. Imagine you have an argument with a friend. It's very easy to think, "They started it," or "They made me angry." But when you take responsibility, you stop and ask yourself, "Did I say something that hurt them? Could I have listened more carefully?" You can't control what other people do, but you can control your own behavior and your reactions. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you take the blame for everything. It simply means you look honestly at your part in the situation and decide what you can do to make it better. The same is true in work or business. Let's say your manager tells you that your project wasn't good enough. It's tempting to think, "He's too demanding," or "The deadline was unfair." But a person who takes responsibility would say, "Maybe I can improve my time management," or "I can ask for feedback to do better next time." When you think like this, you don't waste time blaming others. You use your energy to learn and improve. That's how successful people think. Now, let's talk about what most people do instead. Many people blame others or make excuses when things go wrong. They might say, "It's not my fault," or "I can't change anything." This kind of thinking feels easy because it removes the pressure. But it also removes your power. When you blame others, you are saying that your life depends on someone else, that you have no control. And when you make excuses, you stop yourself from growing. You stay stuck in the same place, waiting for things to change on their own. Taking 100% responsibility is very different. It's about taking your power back. It's about saying, "Yes, maybe this situation is hard, but I will learn from it. I will do something to make it better." It means being honest with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. It's not about guilt or blaming yourself. It's about understanding that every choice you make creates a result, and that you have the ability to choose again, to change, and to improve. So, when you hear the phrase, "Take 100% responsibility," remember, it means owning your actions, learning from your mistakes, and focusing on what you can do, not what others should do. It means being the driver of your life instead of just a passenger. When you live this way, you feel stronger, more confident, and more free, because you realize that your future depends not on luck or other people, but on you. Why is it important to take responsibility? Now that we understand what it means to take 100% responsibility, Let's talk about why it is so important. Why should we do it? Why does it really matter? You see, when you start taking full responsibility for your life, something amazing happens. You begin to feel more in control, more confident, and more capable of creating the life you want. It's one of the most powerful things you can do for your personal growth and happiness. Let's begin with the first big reason. You gain control over your life. Many people feel like life just happens to them. They say things like, "I can't do anything about it," or "That's just how things are." When you think like this, life feels heavy and difficult because you feel powerless. But when you take responsibility, you take your power back. You stop waiting for luck or other people to change things for you. You start asking yourself, "What can I do about this?" Or, "What step can I take today to make it better?" That's when your life begins to move forward. For example, imagine two people who both lose their jobs. The first person blames the company and feels hopeless. They say, "It's unfair. I can't do anything." The second person feels sad too, but then they take responsibility. They say, "Okay, this happened. What can I do next? Maybe I can learn a new skill or start applying for new jobs right away." The second person doesn't give up. They take action because they take responsibility. They gain control, and soon they find a new opportunity. The second reason it's important to take responsibility is that you build confidence. When you take responsibility for your actions, you start to believe in yourself. You realize that your choices matter. Each time you make a decision and follow through, your confidence grows a little more. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life, and you start seeing yourself as a creator of your life. That's a big difference. Think about learning English, for example. Some people say, "My English is bad because my teacher wasn't good," or "I don't have time to study." But others say, "I can practice a few minutes every day," or "I'll listen to English podcasts while walking." The second group takes responsibility, and over time, they improve. When they see progress, they feel proud and confident. They know that their effort made the difference. Another reason is that you learn faster from your mistakes. When you blame others, you close the door to learning. You don't ask questions like, "What can I do better next time?" Instead, you stay stuck. But when you take responsibility, mistakes become your teachers. You start to see every problem as a chance to learn something new. Let me share a short story. There was a young man who worked as a waiter in a busy restaurant. One day, he made a big mistake. He forgot to bring a customer's order, and the customer got very angry. Many people would have blamed the kitchen staff or said, "It's not my fault. We were too busy." But this waiter didn't do that. He said, "I'm sorry. It was my mistake." And he offered to fix it immediately. Later, he thought about how to organize his work better. The next day, he made a list and started checking every order twice before sending it. Soon, his manager noticed how responsible he was and promoted him to a better position. That happened because he took responsibility instead of making excuses. Finally, when you take responsibility, you become more successful. Success in life doesn't come from luck. It comes from action. When you believe that you are responsible for your results, you start making better choices. You plan, you work hard, and you stay consistent. Even when things go wrong, you don't quit. You say, "Okay, that didn't work. What can I try next?" That mindset is what separates successful people from those who just wish for success. Think of anyone who has achieved something great, a business person, an athlete, or even a good student. They all have one thing in common. They don't wait for others to make things happen. They take action. They take responsibility. And because of that, they keep improving and moving forward. So, when you take 100% responsibility, you start to control your life instead of letting life control you. You build real confidence because you know that your actions make a difference. You learn faster because you accept mistakes as lessons. And over time, you become more successful because you take consistent action toward your goals. Taking responsibility is not about being perfect. It's about being honest, brave, and willing to learn. It's about saying, I am not a victim of life. I am the author of my life. And when you start living with that mindset, everything begins to change. Slowly at first, but deeply and powerfully. That's why taking 100% responsibility is so important. It's the foundation for growth, success, and real happiness. Common excuses people make. Now, let's talk about something that almost everyone does. Making excuses. We all do it sometimes, even when we don't realize it. Excuses are little sentences we tell ourselves to explain why we didn't do something or why we didn't get the result we wanted. They sound small and harmless, but in reality, excuses are one of the biggest things that stop us from growing and improving. When people don't take responsibility, they usually start with excuses. They might say, "It's not my fault," or "I don't have time," or "It's too hard." These sentences sound simple, but they are powerful. They make us believe that we can't change anything. The moment we use an excuse, we close the door to learning and action. Let's look at some of the most common excuses people use. The first one is, "It's not my fault." This is probably the most popular excuse in the world. When something goes wrong, many people immediately try to protect themselves by blaming someone else. For example, a student might say, "It's not my fault I failed the test. The teacher made it too difficult." Or someone at work might say, "It's not my fault the project failed. My team didn't help me." But when we say, "It's not my fault," we also say, "I can't fix it." That means we give away our power to change the situation. Instead, if we take responsibility, we can ask, "What could I have done differently?" That small question opens the door to improvement. Another very common excuse is, "I don't have time." How many times have we said that? "I don't have time to study English." "I don't have time to exercise." "I don't have time to read." The truth is, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. The difference is how we choose to use that time. Of course, life is busy. We all have work, family, and many things to do. But when we say, "I don't have time," we are really saying, "It's not important enough for me right now." If something truly matters to you, you can always find a few minutes for it. Instead of saying, "I don't have time," try saying, "I can find 10 minutes each day." 10 minutes of study every day is much better than 0 minutes once a week. Small actions, when repeated, create big results. The next excuse is, "It's too hard." This one often appears when we face something new or uncomfortable. Learning a new skill, starting a new habit, or changing old behavior can feel difficult at first. But when we say, "It's too hard," we stop trying before we even start. The truth is, everything feels hard at the beginning. Think about when you learned to ride a bike or use a computer. At first, it was confusing. You probably made mistakes, maybe even fell a few times, but you kept trying, and soon it became easy. The same happens with English, work, or any goal. Instead of saying, "It's too hard," try saying, "It's hard now, but it will get easier as I practice." That small change in attitude makes a big difference. Another excuse people often use is, "I don't have the right teacher." This one is very common for language learners. Many people believe that they can't learn because they don't have the best teacher, or the best school, or the perfect course. But remember, the best teacher in the world can't help if the student doesn't take responsibility. A teacher can guide you, but you are the one who has to practice. In today's world, there are so many free tools, podcasts, videos, books, and apps that you can use anytime. So instead of saying, "I don't have the right teacher," try saying, "I can learn from every experience." That mindset will help you grow faster than waiting for the perfect teacher to appear. All of these excuses, "It's not my fault," "I don't have time," "It's too hard," "I don't have the right teacher," sound different, but they all do the same thing. They stop you from taking action. They make you feel safe for a short time, but they also keep you stuck. Every time you use an excuse, you lose a chance to grow, to learn, or to improve something in your life. So what can we do instead? The answer is simple. Change excuses into actions. When you hear yourself making an excuse, stop and ask, "What can I do about it right now?" For example, if you say, "I don't have time," you can change it to, "I can find 10 minutes." If you say, "It's too hard," change it to, "I can take one small step today." If you say, "It's not my fault," change it to, "I can still learn something from this." Each time you replace an excuse with an action, you become stronger and more responsible. Taking 100% responsibility means being honest with yourself. It's not about being perfect. It's about catching your excuses and transforming them into opportunities. The next time you hear your mind saying, "I can't," pause for a moment, smile and ask, "But what if I can?" That question can open a new door in your life. Remember, growth starts when excuses stop. You don't need the perfect time, the perfect teacher, or the perfect situation. You just need the decision to take responsibility, today, right now. That's how progress begins, step by step, one honest action at a time. How to start taking 100% responsibility. Now that we know what it means to take 100% responsibility and why it's so important, the next question is, how can we actually do it? It's easy to say, "I'll take responsibility," but it's not always easy to practice it every day. The good news is that anyone can start. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin with small, simple steps. Let's look at some easy ways to start taking full responsibility for your life. The first step is be honest with yourself. This is the most important part because change always starts with honesty. You have to look at your life and admit where you are making excuses or blaming others. Maybe you didn't study enough for your exam, or you haven't been consistent with your goals. That's okay. We all do it sometimes. But instead of hiding from the truth, try to face it. For example, you might say to yourself, "I didn't study hard enough this week," instead of, "The test was too difficult." Being honest doesn't mean being hard on yourself. It means seeing the situation clearly so you can make a plan to improve. The second step is stop blaming others. It's natural to want to blame people when things go wrong. We blame the teacher, the weather, the boss, our parents, or even bad luck. But the more we blame others, the less power we have to change our situation. Next time something doesn't go as planned, take a moment to think, what part of this is in my control? Maybe you can't control your boss, but you can control how you communicate. You can't control the weather, but you can leave home earlier. When you stop blaming others, you start finding solutions. And that's when real growth begins. The third step is focus on what you can control. In life, there will always be things we can't change. The past, other people's behavior, or random problems. But there are also things we can control. Our thoughts, our reactions, and our effort. For example, if your friend is upset with you, you can't control their feelings, but you can control how kindly you speak and whether you apologize. If you didn't get the job you wanted, you can't control the decision, but you can improve your skills or apply again. When you focus your energy on what you can do instead of what you can't, you feel calmer and more confident. The fourth step is learn from your mistakes. Many people are afraid to make mistakes because they think mistakes mean failure. But the truth is, every mistake is a lesson. If you fail a test, you learn what you need to study more. If you make a mistake at work, you learn how to do it better next time. Every successful person in the world has failed many times, but they didn't stop. They learned. So the next time you make a mistake, don't get angry at yourself. Ask, what can I learn from this? That question turns failure into progress. The fifth step is take small actions every day. Responsibility isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing something, even something small, every day. If you want to improve your English, study for 10 minutes. If you want to be healthier, take a short walk or drink more water. Small actions may not look powerful, but when you repeat them every day, they create big results over time. It's better to do a little bit every day than to wait for the perfect day to start. The sixth step is keep trying. It's okay to fail. Just don't give up. Taking responsibility doesn't mean that everything will always go right. You'll still make mistakes, and you'll still face challenges. But the key is to keep going. Every time you fail and try again, you become stronger and wiser. Imagine a child learning to walk. They fall many times, but they never stop trying. And finally, they succeed. That's how success works for everyone. It's not about never falling. It's about always getting back up. Finally, one powerful question you can always ask yourself is, what can I do to change this situation? This simple question can change your life. Instead of thinking, this is not fair, or there's nothing I can do, you start thinking about solutions. Let's say you're not happy with your English level. Instead of saying, I'll never be fluent, ask, what can I do to practice more? Maybe you can listen to English podcasts, join a speaking group, or write a few sentences every day. When you ask this question often, your brain starts to look for answers, and that's how growth happens. Taking 100% responsibility doesn't happen overnight. It's something you practice one step at a time. Some days it will feel easy. Other days it will be difficult. But every time you choose responsibility over excuses, you move forward. You build strength, confidence, and peace of mind. Remember, responsibility gives you freedom. When you take charge of your life, you stop waiting for others to fix things. You realize that you have the power to change, to grow, and to create the life you want. One honest choice, one small action, and one brave step at a time. Why people avoid responsibility. Even though taking responsibility is powerful and helpful, many people do not like to do it. Why? Why do we sometimes avoid responsibility, even when we know it is the right thing to do? The answer is simple. Responsibility can feel hard, uncomfortable, or even scary. Taking responsibility means admitting that we are in charge of our actions, decisions, and results. That can be difficult because it also means we cannot blame others for our problems. And sometimes it is easier to blame someone else or make an excuse than to face the truth. One reason people avoid responsibility is because blaming others makes us feel better, at least for a short time. For example, if a student fails a test, they might say, "It's not my fault the teacher gave a hard test." Saying this can make the student feel less guilty or worried for a moment because it takes the responsibility away from them. Or imagine someone misses the bus. They might say, "The bus driver is late, so it's not my problem." For a few minutes, it feels better than admitting, "I should have left earlier." Blaming others protects our feelings temporarily, but it does not solve the problem. The truth is, when we avoid responsibility, we stay in the same place. We don't learn, we don't improve, and we don't grow. Another reason people avoid responsibility is fear of failure or punishment. When we take responsibility, we admit that we could make mistakes, or that our actions caused a problem that can feel scary. For example, at work, someone might make a mistake on a project. If they say, "It's the computer's fault," or "My coworker didn't help me," they feel safe for a moment. They avoid conflict or criticism. But by avoiding responsibility, they also avoid learning how to improve or how to prevent the mistake in the future. Fear can stop people from growing, because responsibility often requires courage to face challenges. People also avoid responsibility because it requires effort and action. It is easy to say, "It's not my fault," or "I didn't have time," but taking responsibility means doing something to fix the situation. That can be tiring or uncomfortable. For example, if someone is unhappy with their English skills, they might say, "I don't have the right teacher," or "I'm too busy." These excuses feel easier than making a plan to practice every day, but avoiding responsibility keeps us stuck in the same place, while taking responsibility moves us forward step by step. There are many common excuses people use to avoid responsibility. They include statements like, "It's not my fault," "The weather was bad," "I didn't have enough time," "Someone else is to blame," or "It's too hard." All of these excuses may feel comfortable for a short time. They reduce stress and make us feel like victims of life. But the problem is that excuses do not solve anything. They might make us feel better for a few minutes or hours, but they do not help us improve, grow, or reach our goals. Avoiding responsibility also affects our feelings and confidence in the long term. When we blame others all the time, we start to feel powerless. We begin to believe that life happens to us and we have no control. This makes people feel frustrated, anxious, or unhappy. On the other hand, when we accept responsibility, we take back our power. We see that even small actions we take can make a difference. Responsibility may feel harder at first, but in the long run, it makes us stronger, more confident, and happier. In short, people avoid responsibility because it is uncomfortable, scary, or requires effort. Blaming others or making excuses gives short-term relief, but it does not help us grow responsibility. On the other hand, gives us control, strength, and the ability to learn from our mistakes. It may take courage, but it is the path to real success and personal growth. Why taking responsibility is powerful. Taking responsibility is not just a good habit, it is powerful. When you take full responsibility for your actions, decisions, and results, you take control of your life. Responsibility gives you power because it shifts your focus from blaming others or waiting for help to asking yourself, what can I do to make this better? It changes your mindset from being a victim of circumstances to being the leader of your own life. And when you realize this, you feel stronger, more confident, and more capable every day. One of the most important benefits of taking responsibility is control over your life. When something goes wrong, many people feel helpless. They blame others or say life is unfair. But when you take responsibility, you recognize that you can influence the outcome. For example, imagine a student who fails a test. Instead of blaming the teacher or saying, "The test was too hard," the student says, "I didn't study enough, and I will do better next time." By taking responsibility, the student has control over the next step. They can make a study plan, practice more, and improve their results. That is real power. Another benefit is confidence. When you take responsibility, you feel capable of handling challenges. You no longer wait for someone else to solve your problems. You trust yourself to find solutions. For example, if you are at work and a project does not go as planned, you can ask, "What can I do differently next time?" Even if the project fails, you feel confident because you know you are doing your best and learning along the way. Confidence grows each time you take responsibility and act, even when things are difficult. Taking responsibility also helps you learn faster from mistakes. Mistakes are normal in life, but how you respond to them makes all the difference. If you blame others, you miss the lesson and may make the same mistake again. But if you take responsibility, you see what went wrong and how to improve. For example, if someone argues with a friend and later realizes they were wrong, taking responsibility means apologizing and trying to do better next time. This teaches respect, communication, and emotional control, skills that help in all areas of life. Responsibility is also connected to success. People who take responsibility consistently tend to reach their goals faster. Why? Because they focus on action, not excuses. They find solutions, take small steps every day, and learn from challenges. For example, someone learning English may struggle with speaking. Instead of saying, "I'm too shy" or "My teacher doesn't explain well," they take responsibility. They practice speaking alone, listen to podcasts, or join a small group. Over time, these small actions lead to improvement. Taking responsibility turns obstacles into opportunities. Another powerful effect of responsibility is freedom. It may sound surprising, but responsibility gives freedom because it reduces dependence on others. When you blame others, you feel stuck. You need someone else to fix the problem. When you take responsibility, you realize that you can act and create change yourself. You no longer wait for luck or perfect conditions. You become proactive. For example, if you want to get fit, you don't wait for a perfect gym or perfect weather. You take responsibility by walking every day or doing simple exercises at home. That is freedom in action. Finally, responsibility gives a sense of pride and self-respect. When you know you are doing your best, even in small ways, you feel proud. You respect yourself because you are honest and accountable. This feeling grows every time you take responsibility for your choices, your actions, and your life. It may not always be easy, but it is always rewarding. In short, taking responsibility is powerful because it gives control, confidence, freedom, and the ability to learn and succeed. It turns challenges into opportunities and helps you grow stronger every day. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a superpower that everyone can use, starting right now. A short motivational story. Now, let me tell you a short story about someone who took responsibility and changed their life. Stories are a great way to understand ideas because we can see them in real life. This story is about a young woman named Sarah. She is fictional, but her story is very realistic and can happen to anyone. Sarah was a university student. She wanted to learn English well because she dreamed of working in an international company one day. But at first, she was not very serious about her English studies. She missed classes sometimes, didn't practice speaking, and often said, "It's too difficult," or "I don't have time." One day, Sarah received her English exam results, and she failed. She felt very sad and frustrated. Her first thought was to blame others. She said, "The teacher didn't explain well," and "the test was unfair." At that moment, she felt a little better because it wasn't her fault. But deep down, she knew that blaming others would not help her improve. After a few minutes of feeling frustrated, Sarah decided to do something different. She remembered hearing that taking responsibility can give control and power over your life. She asked herself a simple question: what can I do to improve? This was a turning point. Instead of complaining or making excuses, Sarah focused on what she could control. She realized that even small actions could make a big difference. Sarah started with small steps. First, she made a study plan. She decided to practice English for 15 minutes every day. She listened to podcasts, watched English videos with subtitles, and repeated simple sentences to improve her speaking. Second, she was honest with herself about her mistakes. She noticed that she often didn't review vocabulary, so she created flashcards to learn new words. Third, she stopped blaming others. Whenever she thought, "The teacher is bad," she reminded herself that her improvement depended on her effort, not on someone else. At first, it was not easy. Some days, Sarah felt tired or lazy. She wanted to skip practice and make excuses. But she remembered that taking responsibility meant small actions every day. She kept going. Slowly, she began to notice changes. Her listening became better. She could speak more confidently. Her vocabulary improved. She even started enjoying the learning process because she felt proud of herself for taking action. A few months later, Sarah took another English test. This time, she passed with a good score. But more importantly, she realized something valuable. It was her responsibility and her effort that made the change. No one else could do it for her. Sarah's success was not about luck, the teacher, or easy tests. It was about her choice to take responsibility, face her mistakes, and act every day. Sarah's story teaches a simple lesson. Life will always have challenges, mistakes, and difficult moments. But if you take responsibility, you have the power to improve, learn, and grow. Responsibility is not punishment. It is freedom. It gives you control, confidence, and the ability to succeed. Even small steps, repeated every day, create big changes over time. So, the next time you face a problem, whether it is at school, work, or in your personal life, remember, Sarah, ask yourself, what can I do to change this? Focus on your actions, learn from your mistakes, and keep moving forward. This simple choice can change your life, just like it changed Sarah's. As we come to the end of today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on what we have learned about taking 100% responsibility for our lives. Responsibility is not just a word. It is a powerful choice we can make every day. It means that we own our actions, our mistakes, and our results. It means we stop blaming others or making excuses and instead focus on what we can do to improve. Taking responsibility gives us control, confidence, and the ability to grow stronger with each step we take. We talked about what responsibility really means. We learned that when we take 100% responsibility, we stop saying, "It's not my fault," or "Someone else should fix this." Instead, we ask ourselves, "What can I do to make this better?" We saw that even small actions, done consistently, can lead to big changes over time. We also explored why many people avoid responsibility. It can feel easier to blame others, to make excuses, or to avoid mistakes. But these choices may feel comfortable for a moment, while they actually stop us from improving and growing. On the other hand, responsibility may feel challenging at first, but it leads to real progress, success, and personal strength. We shared examples and stories to make this idea clear. Sarah's story showed us that taking responsibility is a choice we make every day. She could have blamed her teacher, her schedule, or other people, but she chose to focus on her actions. She practiced English every day, learned from her mistakes, and stayed consistent. In the end, she not only passed her test, but also felt proud and confident. Her story is a reminder that responsibility is not punishment. It is a superpower. It gives us the ability to change our lives, one small action at a time. Now, I want you to take a moment to think about your own life. Consider one area where you can take more responsibility. Maybe it is your English studies, your work, your health, or your relationships. Ask yourself, what can I do today to take control of this area of my life? It could be a very small action, just 5 minutes of practice, a small conversation, or a tiny change in your routine. The important thing is to take action, no matter how small. Remember, responsibility is not about being perfect. It is about being honest, acting, learning, and improving every day. Taking responsibility also means being kind to yourself when things do not go perfectly. Mistakes are normal, and challenges are part of life. But each time you take responsibility, you grow stronger, more confident, and more capable. You begin to realize that you are the author of your own life story. You are not waiting for luck or for someone else to fix your problems. Instead, you are making choices and creating opportunities for your own growth and success. So, my friends, remember this. Responsibility is your key to freedom, growth, and success. Every action you take, every choice you make, and every mistake you learn from brings you closer to the life you want. You have the power to change your life, one small, responsible step at a time. Keep asking yourself, what can I do today to take responsibility and take action? That simple question can start amazing changes in your life. Thank you for joining me today on Code Your English. I hope this episode has inspired you to think about your choices and take responsibility for your actions. Remember, small steps every day lead to big results over time. Keep practicing your English. Keep learning. And most importantly, keep taking responsibility for your life. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, where we will explore more ways to learn English and grow together. Until then, stay positive, stay responsible, and remember, you are in charge of your life.